So what happens when the leader of America's biggest city decides to take on the President of the United States? Well, you get more than just a few spicy headlines. You get a high-stakes showdown over ideology, power, and really, the future of cities in America. Let's break down this political clash that has everyone talking.
And the first shot was fired immediately. Right out of the gate, the new mayor-elect of New York City, Zoran Mamdani, basically drew a line in the sand. He didn't just win an election, he declared himself the president's #1 opponent. I mean, that one quote right there, it tells you everything you need to know about the drama that's about to unfold.
So you have to ask, right? How on earth did a 34-year-old Democratic socialist pull this off, becoming the leader of New York City and, almost overnight, the target of a sitting president? That's the question we're going to dig into.
All right, first things first, let's get to know the man at the center of this storm, Zoran Mamdani. Because to really get why his election is such a big deal, you have to understand who he is and how he won. This wasn't just another election cycle, it was a political earthquake.
And let's start with the numbers, because they tell a huge part of the story. This wasn't some fringe movement that snuck in. We're talking about more than 2 million New Yorkers showing up to vote. That is massive engagement, and it gave the winner a really powerful mandate for change.
And the result itself? It wasn't even close. Mamdani didn't just squeak by. He won with over 50% of the vote. He beat some really established names like former Governor Andrew Cuomo. As you can see, this was a commanding victory, giving him a solid claim to represent what the people of the city wanted.
His background is just as incredible as his win. Get this, he's the city's first Muslim mayor, the first South Asian mayor, and the youngest in more than 100 years. He was born in Uganda to Indian Muslim parents who were fleeing persecution, and he came to the U.S. as a kid. So this isn't just a political story, it's a deeply American one too.
So how did he do it? Well, he ran on a super bold, very progressive platform. We're talking universal childcare, freezing rents, making public transit free for everyone, and the way to pay for it, taxing the wealthy. This is the core of his political vision, that essential services should be a public right, not something you buy. And that idea clearly hit home for a lot of voters, but it also became a major flashpoint for his opponents.
Of course, you just knew that a victory this huge in a city like New York was going to get a big reaction from the White House. And that reaction, it was pretty much immediate.
President Trump did not mince words. His take was blunt, predicting total disaster for New York under this new leadership. That quote pretty much set the hostile tone right from day one.
And the language just kept getting stronger. Over on his platform, Truth Social, the president dropped one of the most loaded words in American politics to describe Mamdani, calling him a communist. I mean, that's not just a policy disagreement, that's framing him as a dangerous, radical threat to the country.
And you can see how quickly this escalated. On one side, you've got President Trump threatening to cut off federal funding and comparing New York to places like Cuba or Venezuela. And on the other side, the new mayor fires right back, vowing to resist what he calls a fascist agenda and promising to fight even harder for his platform. The battle lines were drawn very clearly and very quickly.
Okay, so let's get past the war of words for a second. What are the actual fundamental policy disagreements here? Because this is where you can see the huge ideological canyon that separates these two leaders.
This table really just lays it all out. On immigration, Mamdani calls border restrictions racist, while Trump is all for them. When it comes to the economy, it's a battle between wealth taxes for services versus tax cuts for the wealthy. And on social policy, well, a mayor aiming to fight Islamophobia versus a president who once put a Muslim ban in place. They are on completely different planets.
So this brings us to the really crucial part. This isn't just some local New York spat. This conflict has huge implications for the entire country. Let's dig into why this fight in one city really matters everywhere.
And here's the ultimate power play. New York City's budget runs on billions, with a B, of dollars from the federal government. That money pays for everything from roads and subways to social programs. So when the president threatens to turn off that tap, it's not just talk. It's a direct threat to the city's ability to even function.
And if we zoom out, you can see the national stakes here. All of a sudden, New York City becomes ground zero for progressive resistance to the White House. It's like a real-time experiment. Can a progressive city actually make its policies work with a hostile federal government pushing back?
You can bet this fight will be a rallying cry for both parties heading into the midterms, and it's already turned Mayor Mamdani into a national figure overnight.
So it all leaves us with one really critical question. When you have this clash of titans, a mayor with a bold new vision for a city and a president with the full power of the federal government, who actually pays the price? Because caught in the middle of all this are millions of people just trying to live their lives. And that's the real question here. Who ultimately bears the cost of this fight?